Discipline will save your life, not motivation. Let me be honest with you from the very beginning. You don't need more motivation, you need more discipline. Because the truth is, motivation will lie to you. It will show up when life feels good, when everything is going your way. But it disappears the moment life gets hard. And that's exactly when you need strength the most. That's when discipline becomes your only hope for survival. So, if you're the kind of person who's tired of starting over, tired of being excited on Monday and exhausted by Wednesday, then this message is not just important, it's urgent. Stay until the end, because I promise you, if you understand what I'm about to share, you won't need another motivational video for the rest of the year. You'll walk away with something more powerful, a new mindset, a new standard, and a new strategy for success. Motivation is fleeting. It's the fire that flares up when you're inspired, when you've heard something powerful, seen someone succeed, or experienced a burst of hope. It feels good, doesn't it? That sudden wave of energy that makes you want to change your life, start a new habit, or chase a dream. But here's the problem. Motivation doesn't last. It's unstable. It's based on feelings, and feelings change with your circumstance. One bad day, one disappointment, one sleepless night, and it's gone. That's why motivation alone will never take you to your destiny. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for inspiration. Discipline shows up when you're tired. It shows up when you're discouraged. It shows up when no one claps for you, when no one notices your effort, and when you're tempted to quit. While motivation speaks loud in the moment, discipline whispers consistently, "Do it anyway." And that whisper, it's what builds greatness. The reason most people don't see progress in their lives isn't because they lack dreams or passion. It's because they're waiting for motivation to carry them. But you can't build your future on emotional highs. You need structure. You need rhythm. You need a decision that stands even when your emotions fall. Discipline gives you that. It turns your goals into action, your action into habits, and your habits into results. If you only work when you're motivated, you'll be inconsistent. And if you're inconsistent, you'll never see the rewards that come with endurance. Think about it. Your health, your finances, your purpose, your relationships, they all demand more than excitement. They require repeated effort. They require a standard, a commitment that doesn't waver with your mood. People who rely on motivation start strong but quit early. People who develop discipline start with clarity and finish with impact. The truth is, if your life is going to change, it won't be because you were excited one day. It will be because you did the hard thing again and again, even when you didn't feel like it. Discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't sparkle, but it shows up. And showing up is what saves your life. Your future isn't built in a day. It's built daily, every single morning. Whether you realize it or not, you're laying bricks for the life you'll live tomorrow. And those bricks are your habits. The small, seemingly insignificant choices you make, what time you wake up, how you speak to yourself, what you prioritize, how you respond to pressure. Those are the true architects of your future. Discipline is what transforms those choices from random reactions into intentional habits, and those habits eventually become your lifestyle. Over time, that lifestyle becomes your destiny. People often look at successful individuals and assume they have some special gift or secret advantage. But in most cases, the real difference is found in their consistency. They've simply mastered the discipline of doing the right things repeatedly, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, And even when no one is watching, they've trained themselves to show up when it's inconvenient, to sacrifice when it's uncomfortable, and to focus when distractions are loud. They understand that greatness is not a result of what you do once in a while when you feel inspired, but what you do every single day, regardless of how you feel. Habits don't just appear, they're formed on purpose, through repetition, guided by discipline. If your daily routine is filled with excuses, shortcuts, and inconsistency, then no matter how big your dreams are, your future will reflect your lack of structure. But if your days are governed by discipline, by thoughtful routines, by accountability, by clear goals, then your future begins to take shape with strength and stability. Most people underestimate the power of daily discipline because it's not glamorous. It doesn't give instant results, but over time it compounds. It builds momentum, and before you know it, what started as small decisions become part of who you are. That's when you stop trying to act successful and start living successfully, because your habits have already taken you there. So if you're serious about changing your life, stop focusing on what you do occasionally and start paying attention to what you do consistently. Discipline is the difference maker. Your habits are your future in disguise. And every day, you're either building a foundation that leads to greatness or one that crumbles under pressure. The choice is yours. Life is unpredictable. Storms come without warning. Loss, failure, betrayal, sickness, financial pressure. In those moments, the emotional high of motivation disappears. You don't wake up inspired. You don't feel strong. You feel overwhelmed, drained, or even defeated. And it's in those exact moments that discipline becomes your anchor. It's the only thing that keeps you standing when everything around you is shaking. When crisis hits, your feelings can't be trusted. Your emotions will tell you to give up. Your mind will scream that it's too hard. But discipline cuts through all that noise and says, stick to the plan, keep showing up. That's why discipline is more valuable than motivation. It doesn't need to feel good to work. It's built on decisions, not emotions, and that's why it's reliable. Think about any difficult season you faced. What saved you? It wasn't hype. It wasn't a motivational quote. It was the structure you built before the storm. It was the decision you made to keep moving forward, even with tears in your eyes. The people who survive life's hardest moments aren't the most inspired. They're the most prepared. They've trained themselves in the calm so they can stay composed in the chaos. They've developed routines, principles, and habits that protect their purpose when everything else falls apart. Discipline doesn't just keep you productive, it keeps you protected. It keeps your values intact when you're tempted to compromise. It holds your integrity in place when the pressure to quit is overwhelming. It guards your identity when life tries to redefine you through failure or pain. Without discipline, you become reactive, tossed around by circumstances and feelings. But with discipline, you become grounded. You may bend, but you won't break. You may struggle, but you won't stop. You may cry, but you'll still rise. Because your strength isn't in how you feel, it's in what you've trained yourself to do, no matter how you feel. When motivation runs away in the face of adversity, discipline stays. It's what keeps your vision alive in the dark, and it's what ultimately turns seasons of crisis into platforms for your growth. Discipline is your quiet warrior. It won't shout, but it will save your life. Success doesn't happen by chance. It doesn't fall into your lap just because you're talented, passionate, or optimistic. Success is a product of structure. Daily structure, mental structure, spiritual structure, and the force that builds and maintains that structure is discipline. Without it, even the most gifted people crumble under pressure or become paralyzed by distractions. But with it, even those with fewer natural advantages can rise above their circumstances and build something meaningful. Motivation might give you a goal, but discipline gives you a system. Systems are what keep you going when your emotions shift, when the weather changes, or when life doesn't go as planned. They're the invisible framework that supports everything visible in your life. When you rely solely on feelings to lead your actions, your structure becomes unstable. You wake up early one day and sleep in the next. You start one project and never finish it. You promise yourself change, but your follow-through is weak. This is how dreams die. Not because they weren't possible, but because they weren't sustained. Discipline brings order to your chaos. It forces your time, energy, and attention to serve your priorities. Instead of being pulled in 10 directions by distractions, you live with intention. You know when to say yes and when to say no. You know what matters today, and you build toward tomorrow. That kind of structure gives peace. It gives direction, and over time it gives results. The people who win in life are not always the smartest or most inspired. They are simply the most disciplined. They've developed personal structures that help them grow, stay focused, and recover quickly when life hits hard. They don't just work hard, they work with purpose. They don't just try, they train. That's the difference. You can't build a strong life on scattered effort. You need rhythm, you need commitment. You need a system that keeps you aligned with your purpose, even when you're tempted to drift. That's what discipline provides. Without it, your potential stays potential. With it, your potential becomes reality. So if you want your goals to last longer than your feelings, don't build your life on motivation. Build it on structure, and let discipline be your architect. One of the biggest lies people believe is that success belongs to the most talented or the most passionate. But the truth is, success belongs to the most consistent. Passion may ignite the flame, but only discipline keeps it burning. Your habits, not your hopes, shape your future. It's what you do consistently, not occasionally, that defines who you become. Anyone can be great for a day. Anyone can make promises when they feel inspired. But what separates the truly successful from the rest is what they do when no one is watching, when it's not exciting, and when no praise is being given. Consistency is hard. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause, but that's exactly why it's so powerful. Because the majority of people quit. They start strong, but don't finish. They begin with enthusiasm, but lack the endurance. That's where discipline steps in and says, show up anyway. Day after day, task after task, discipline does the work that motivation refuses to do. And with each day of consistency, you get closer to your goals, not by leaps, but by steady, deliberate steps. Think of a farmer. He doesn't see a harvest the day after planting seeds. He doesn't quit just because the soil looks the same. He keeps showing up, watering, tending, protecting, because he trusts the process. Discipline is that kind of trust. It believes in progress even when there's no immediate proof. And eventually, the results come, not all at once, but in layers, quietly, powerfully. Success is never an accident. It is a reward for the disciplined. The athletes who train daily, the leaders who stay committed, the students who study when others sleep, the creators who build when inspiration fades. These are the people whose lives change because they've mastered consistency. Discipline builds consistency, and consistency builds legacy. If you only move when you feel like it, your life will always be unstable. But if you can keep doing the right things repeatedly, without fanfare, without shortcuts, you'll look up one day and realize that the discipline others avoided is what gave you the results they always wanted. Success isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things every day, until the day those things become who you are. There will always be moments when you don't feel like it. Moments when your body is tired, your mind is foggy, and your emotions are flat. Those are the exact moments where the battle is won or lost, not by how you feel, but by what you choose. Discipline gives you the power to do what's necessary, even when it's the last thing you feel like doing. That is what separates growth from stagnation. It's not about being in the mood, it's about being mature enough to act beyond your mood. If you only move when you're motivated, you'll live a life ruled by emotions. And emotions are unstable. They shift with your circumstances, your environment, your hormones, your sleep, your diet. One small inconvenience can throw off your entire day. But discipline? Discipline is stable. It doesn't depend on external conditions. It functions through decision, not emotion. And this is why it's powerful. Because when discipline leads, consistency follows. And when consistency follows, results begin to show. Most people wait for the perfect feeling before they take action. But those who win in life take action to create the feeling. They train their body and mind to respond with commitment instead of comfort. They understand that feelings are visitors, but habits are permanent. You may not feel like working out, studying, building, or showing up, but if you do it anyway, something changes inside of you. You start to prove to yourself that you are not a slave to your feelings. You become the kind of person who keeps promises to yourself regardless of how you feel in the moment. Growth happens when you do what's right, not what's easy. And discipline is the bridge between intention and action. It's the force that turns I want to into I did. You won't always feel inspired, but you can always be disciplined. That's what makes the difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise. Discipline is not just about doing the hard things. It's about doing them when everything in you says, skip it today. You don't have to feel strong to be strong. You just have to act with discipline. Because over time, feelings follow actions. And one day, the very thing you didn't feel like doing becomes the habit that changed your life. Discipline creates freedom, real lasting freedom. That may sound like a contradiction, but it's a profound truth. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want whenever you want. But that kind of freedom quickly turns into bondage. If you eat whatever you want, your health suffers. If you spend however you feel, your finances collapse. If you only act when you're in the mood, your potential dies unrealized. True freedom doesn't come from living without rules. It comes from living by the right rules. Rules you choose through discipline. When you're disciplined, you don't become more restricted, you become more powerful. You gain control over your life instead of being controlled by impulses, cravings, laziness, or distractions. You gain time because you don't waste hours on things that don't matter. You gain clarity because you're not overwhelmed by chaos. You gain energy because your focus isn't scattered. Discipline simplifies life. It reduces noise, it protects you from self-sabotage, and the result is freedom. The kind of freedom that leads to real joy, real achievement, and real peace. Without discipline, freedom is dangerous. It becomes recklessness. People who chase pleasure without structure end up enslaved to their appetites. They lose time, lose focus, lose health, lose opportunities. What starts as freedom becomes regret. But those who submit to discipline early experience a different kind of life. They wake up with purpose. They manage their time with intention. They control their reactions. They build habits that align with their vision. That's not bondage. That's power. Think about anyone you admire. Whether they're athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, or leaders, they didn't get there by living however they wanted. They got there by sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term purpose. They said no to many things so they could say yes to the right things. They practiced discipline not to make life harder, but to make life richer. And that's the paradox. What looks like restriction from the outside is actually liberation on the inside. Discipline doesn't cage you in, it sets you free. from chaos, from regret, from mediocrity. It frees your mind to focus, your body to perform, and your life to grow. The more disciplined you are, the more you unlock the life you were created to live. That's the kind of freedom worth fighting for. Discipline is the foundation upon which true success and personal growth are built. It's the invisible force that shapes your character, molds your habits, and ultimately determines the quality of your life. Without discipline, even the brightest talents and the strongest dreams remain dormant, like seeds scattered on rocky soil without the care needed to grow. But with discipline, those seeds take root, grow deep, and flourish into something extraordinary. Discipline teaches you self-control. It trains you to say no to distractions, temptations, and instant gratification that pull you away from your goals. It's easy to give in to what feels good in the moment, watching another episode, scrolling endlessly on your phone, eating unhealthy food, or procrastinating on important tasks. But discipline empowers you to resist those impulses. It helps you choose what serves your future over what satisfies your present. This ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of success in any area of life. Beyond just resisting temptation, discipline builds resilience. Life is full of setbacks, failures, and unexpected challenges. When you have discipline, you don't let obstacles derail you. Instead, you learn to adapt, push through pain, and keep moving forward. Discipline creates mental toughness, a kind of inner strength that refuses to give up no matter how hard things get. It's the reason some people bounce back from failure stronger than before, while others remain stuck, defeated by the same difficulties. Discipline also cultivates consistency. It's not about rare moments of brilliance or occasional bursts of effort. It's about showing up every day, putting in the work, and building momentum over time. Success rarely happens overnight. It's the result of repeated actions, repeated choices, and repeated effort, sustained for months and years. Discipline keeps you on track when motivation wanes and excitement fades. It's the engine that powers long-term progress. Moreover, discipline shapes your identity. Who you are is largely defined by what you do regularly. When you consistently practice discipline, you become a person who honors commitments, keeps promises, especially to yourself, and lives with integrity. This builds self-respect and confidence, which then fuels even more disciplined behavior. It creates a positive cycle. Discipline leads to success, which boosts self-esteem, which strengthens discipline even further. Without discipline, talent and passion can only carry you so far. They are like raw materials that need structure to be transformed into results. Discipline is the master builder that takes those raw materials and constructs something lasting. It teaches you to manage your time, your energy, and your priorities effectively. It helps you focus on what truly matters, cutting through the noise and clutter of everyday life. Discipline also helps in decision-making. When you are disciplined, you develop the ability to think long-term and make choices aligned with your goals. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. This clarity reduces stress and confusion because you have a clear roadmap to follow. You don't waste energy on second-guessing or indecision. Finally, discipline empowers freedom. At first glance, discipline may seem like restriction or limitation. But in reality, it creates the freedom to live the life you want. It frees you from the chaos of impulsivity and poor choices. It frees you from regret, wasted time, and unfulfilled potential. It frees you to pursue your dreams with confidence and persistence. In essence, discipline is not just a tool for success, it is the essence of a fulfilled life. It transforms potential into reality, dreams into accomplishments, and desires into habits. It is the quiet strength behind every achievement, the steady heartbeat of progress. The more you cultivate discipline, the more you invest in your own growth, your own future, and your own legacy, Without discipline, you drift. With discipline, you steer. And steering your life with discipline is the only way to truly save it. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather. Sometimes intense and overwhelming, other times weak or completely absent. If you rely solely on motivation to drive your actions, you're setting yourself up for failure. Motivation may get you started, but it rarely keeps you going when the journey gets tough. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady and reliable. It doesn't depend on feelings or circumstances. It is the inner commitment to keep moving forward no matter what. This is the critical difference between short bursts of enthusiasm and lasting success. Most people fall into the trap of waiting for motivation before taking action. They believe that if they just feel inspired enough, they'll do the work. But life doesn't always provide that luxury. Sometimes you'll wake up tired, stressed, or distracted. Sometimes the challenges will seem too big, the progress too slow, or the rewards too distant. On those days, motivation may be completely absent. If you depend on it, you'll stay stuck in waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, or the perfect spark. Discipline fills that gap. It is the commitment to act even when you don't feel like it. It is doing what must be done, regardless of how you feel. Discipline is the muscle that strengthens every time you choose to act against resistance. When motivation fades, discipline says, "I'm still going." It bridges the gap between desire and action, turning dreams into reality. This is why so many talented and motivated people fail to reach their potential. They start with passion and excitement, but when the going gets tough, they give up. They lose momentum because motivation ran out and discipline wasn't there to take over. Those who succeed are not necessarily the most gifted or the most motivated. They are the ones who cultivate discipline and use it as a tool to keep pushing forward. Discipline is the framework that supports long-term success. It creates routines and habits that become automatic, reducing the reliance on fluctuating motivation. When you're disciplined, you create systems that keep you productive and focused even when inspiration is low. This consistency builds momentum. And momentum is what turns small efforts into significant achievements over time. Furthermore, discipline trains your mind to overcome excuses and procrastination. It rewires your thinking to prioritize action over hesitation. When you are disciplined, you learn to recognize the difference between a temporary feeling and a permanent goal. You don't let discomfort, fear, or laziness dictate your choices. Instead, you develop the mental toughness to persevere through challenges. Discipline also builds confidence. Every time you follow through on your commitments, despite a lack of motivation, you prove to yourself that you are reliable and capable. This self-trust is invaluable. It creates a positive feedback loop where your belief in your own abilities strengthens, which in turn makes discipline easier to maintain. Moreover, discipline fosters responsibility. It shifts the mindset from blaming circumstances or waiting for external motivation to taking full ownership of your actions and results. When you embrace discipline, you accept that your success depends largely on what you do, not on how you feel or what happens around you. This empowerment is transformative. It puts you in the driver's seat of your life. It's important to understand that discipline is not about perfection or rigidity. It's about commitment and resilience. You won't always be perfect, and you won't always follow your routine flawlessly. But discipline is about getting back on track when you fall off. It's about refusing to let a bad day turn into a bad week or month. It's about making small, steady progress, even in the face of setbacks. In practice, cultivating discipline means creating clear goals, establishing daily habits, and holding yourself accountable. It means setting priorities and boundaries that protect your focus. It means learning to say no to distractions and temptations that don't serve your higher purpose. Over time, these disciplined actions compound into massive growth. Ultimately, Discipline is what transforms motivation from a fleeting spark into a lasting flame. It is the difference between dreams that remain wishes and dreams that become your reality. If you want to achieve anything meaningful, you must develop discipline, not as a punishment or a burden, but as the greatest gift you can give yourself. Discipline saves your life because it saves your dreams. It keeps you moving forward when motivation fails. And that is why discipline, not motivation, will ultimately determine your success and fulfillment. As we come to the close of this message, I want you to take a moment and really reflect on what discipline means for your life. It's easy to get caught up in the highs and lows of motivation, the excitement of a new idea, the rush of a fresh start, or the disappointment when enthusiasm fades. But discipline is what stands firm through every season, every challenge, and every day that tests your will. Remember, motivation is like a spark. It can ignite your fire, but it won't keep the flame burning on its own. Discipline is the steady fuel, the ongoing commitment to yourself and your goals that keeps you burning bright long after motivation has passed. It's what turns good intentions into lasting habits and habits into the life you've always dreamed of. If you take anything away from this speech, let it be this: discipline is your most powerful ally. Without it, motivation will betray you every time. You'll start and stop, rise and fall, chase dreams and then let them slip away. But with discipline, you take control. You break free from the cycle of waiting for the perfect moment or feeling and step into a life where your success is no longer a matter of chance, but a matter of choice. Think about the people you admire most. Their secret isn't just talent or luck, it's discipline. They show up day after day, even when the world feels heavy, even when the excitement fades, even when they're tired or unsure. That consistency, that unwillingness to quit is what sets them apart. And it's not because they're superhuman. It's because they have trained themselves to rely on discipline, not fleeting feelings. This is why discipline is sometimes called freedom's foundation. When you live disciplined, you're not locked in chains. You're breaking free from the chains of distraction, procrastination, and inconsistency. You gain the freedom to create the future you want, to build the habits that support your vision, and to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. You might be thinking, discipline sounds hard. I don't want to live with that kind of pressure. But here's the truth. Discipline is not about punishment or deprivation. It's about respect. Respect for your dreams, your time, and yourself. It's about choosing to invest in your future, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about knowing that temporary discomfort leads to lasting reward. The more you practice discipline, the easier it becomes. Like a muscle, it grows stronger with use. At first, it may feel like a struggle. You might have to push through resistance, fight old habits, and face your fears. But each time you choose discipline, you build momentum. Over time, discipline shifts from being a burden to becoming a natural part of who you are. And here's something beautiful. Discipline doesn't just impact your goals and productivity, it transforms your character. It shapes your integrity, your confidence, and your self-worth. When you keep your promises to yourself, even in small ways, you build an unshakable trust in your own abilities. You become the kind of person who can be relied upon, not just by others, but most importantly, by yourself. So ask yourself today, what areas of your life are waiting for discipline to step in? Where have you been relying too much on motivation only to feel stuck or frustrated? What small step can you take right now to commit to discipline, regardless of how you feel? Could be as simple as setting a consistent wake-up time, making a daily to-do list, exercising for 10 minutes, or dedicating yourself to learning something new every day. These small, disciplined actions add up, and they create a ripple effect that transforms your entire life. Discipline will save you because it saves your dreams from fading away. It keeps you moving forward when motivation runs dry. It turns the impossible into the possible, the one day into today, and the I wish into I did. I challenge you to stop waiting for motivation to show up and start building your discipline muscle instead. Commit to doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Because success, growth, and fulfillment are not reserved for the lucky or the talented. They are reserved for the disciplined. Your life is your responsibility. Your future depends on the choices you make right now. Choose discipline. Choose action. Choose to be the person who doesn't quit when motivation fades, but keeps going no matter what. Remember, discipline will not only save your life, it will transform it.